Tony, I referenced this. I don't know. Did you read Kevin's report on the Aaron Scott matter? And I guess he was wearing Michigan-styled Nike cleats at the camp yesterday, which created a bit of a buzz for everybody there. I don't know what came out of that from our buddy Kevin's report.
Yeah, Aaron Scott says he's still undecided, even though he has a decision date coming. So that's where he is right now. I do think he probably saw all of the talking on social media about how much his dad is a fan of the Buckeyes, and he scheduled his commitment date for his father's birthday, and that everybody just assumes that he's an Ohio State guy now. So I think when you're that in tune to the game, you also play the game in terms of the recruiting game. And so I think he wanted to keep people talking, and not that he isn't torn. I'm sure he is, but if you want to keep people talking, then you start to boost up the other team. I will say when Ohio State had a commitment from Miles Lockhart on Instagram Live, and Aaron Scott was in there, rooting him on to Ohio State. So things like that it's with recruiting, the tea leaves are all over the place. And most of them mean absolutely nothing, and some of it means something, but you can't tell which tea leaves are the accurate ones and which ones are just regular tea, I guess. So if you want to believe one side, believe that. If you want to believe the other, believe that. But he says he's still torn, and we'll find out in a few weeks here where he's going to go. But as I've said before, Ohio State, this would be a big loss for them if he went to Michigan, to lose not only one of the top players in state, but to lose them to Michigan.
And one other thought, I mean, his school colors at Springfield are blue and gold. So, it could be, he's wearing that motif because that may be a shoe that he wears to, accent his high school uniform in the fall. But again, who knows? But I wouldn't read a whole lot into the color of somebody's, cleats on July 11th of what that's going to mean one way or the other.
All right, Peace Clan. This might be a bit extreme here. Peace Clan says, going back to Aaron Scott, if we lose him to the team up north, then something is certainly wrong with Buckeye recruiting in Ohio. I hate to make a narrative on one lost recruit.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at Twitter last night, and there was a funny clip of Charles Woodson from the ESPYs, way back when. And it was the comedian
Norm Macdonald.
Remarked that the only way to lose the Heisman is to, kill your wife and a waiter or something like that live on the ESPYs. And that kind of went over like a bomb. But Charles Woodson is an example of a guy from Fremont, Ohio that went to Michigan. And there have been others. I mean, they had Desmond Howard was from Ohio, Charles Woodson, Elvis Gerbach, any number of guys over the years from the state of Ohio have gone to Michigan. But
that's when it was broken, Steve.
Yeah. In the last 20 years, anybody, Ohio State's wanted that's gone to Michigan, that list is very, very short. I mean, Kyle Kalis, was he committed to OSU and then went to Michigan for some reason? And I don't remember the whole reasoning why.
Luke Fickell and Urban Meyer, he was a 2012 guy. So that whole thing,
yeah. In that
Trusty getting fired.
Yeah. That whole thing where they changed staffs and brought in a new group of coaches, and things looked at a different way between what Jim Bowman may have been doing on the offensive line. And then, who was the first offensive line coach for Meyer? Was it Warner? Was he in on the first wave or? Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, that may have been a difference in philosophy, but it's rare in the last 20 years that a guy Ohio State has offered and really wanted has gone to Michigan. So if it does happen once or twice in 20 years, I don't think it's a reason to say, what are we doing with our recruiting? Our recruiting is not right. Let's just tap the brakes. One guy isn't going to change the trajectory of either of these programs. And so, let's let's just let the kid make his decision in peace and go from there. The last guy they had from Springfield, who I think they really, really, really wanted, was Trey DePriest about a decade ago. Didn't he go to Alabama? Was that it, Tony? That sound right? I mean, they've had some other really good players. I mean, Wisconsin has had some players from there. I think the wide receiver Davis was from Springfield from there. And there have been some other guys, just general, Big Ten players, but, are they Ohio State Big Ten players? This may be the first one in a while. So let's just let the poor kid make his announcement, and wherever it happens, and it's all going to work out. We're all going to get up the next day. The sun's going to come up. They're going to get the helmets and the shoulder pads out. They're actually going to play football in the fall. It's not just a hot stove league of recruiting. They actually play football games in the fall, believe it or not. So I think any cause to get too wrapped around the axle about one guy, I just don't get it, and I don't see it.
I think there will be, if Aaron Scott chooses Michigan, you'll be able to possibly look at the Ohio rankings in the 24/7 and see that 2 of the top 3 guys went to Michigan, maybe 3 of the top 4 if Brian Robinson goes to Michigan. I'm not sure that he has a committable offer to Michigan anymore or not. So you look at the list of Ohioans and see a lot of Michigan. Of course, Robinson doesn't have an offer from Ohio State. They lose Jordan Marshall from Cincinnati to Michigan, but Ohio State has 3 running backs committed in the class, so they've kind of picked up those pieces. But I think narratively it would look there. You'd see a lot of discussion on Twitter about it, and as we know, that's where that's more important than what happens on the field, is what people are saying on Twitter. But yeah, you've got Bryce West locked in, and those 2 have talked about wanting to play together. So I think whichever way Aaron Scott goes, that flips the narrative. And as Steve said, we'll see what kind of impact it has on the field. You look at some of the guys that Ohio State has lost. Some Ohioans that have gone to Michigan, in the past, that hasn't necessarily been devastating to Ohio State. But then you got guys like Rod Moore, who is a safety in Michigan. I think he's going to be a junior this year that Ohio State didn't really offer. And he's going to be like a 3-year starter at Michigan, and is really, really good. So it's good that Jim Harbaugh is back to recruiting Ohio and recruiting Ohio well. It's something that he got away from, and you saw the results on the field when he did.
Yeah, Peace Glenn, it's not as though you don't have a point there. Certainly, we had this discussion 2, 3, 4 months ago when Michigan was making inroads in the Buckeye State, unlike anything under the Harbaugh regime, in which they had not signed a top 10 player in the state of Ohio during his entire tenure at Michigan, and now they have. So it's not like it's completely not justified for you to make that statement. However, yes, the recruiting is still just to point out the selections of certain players. I think that obviously the world is wide open for guys to do what they will for whatever reason.